And welcome to another show. I've got a question for you. Were you damaged by inaccurate judgment or a lien information scenario on your credit report? How would you like to learn how you could qualify for $1,500 from a settlement with one of the top 3 credit reporting agencies? It'd be nice, wouldn't it? Well, stick around because you're going to find out through my interview here. Equifax, one of the leading credit reporting agencies, was recently sued in federal court in Virginia for including false information on credit reports. Now, that court, the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia, approved a nationwide settlement with Equifax related to claims that it included inaccurate information on its credit reports, tax liens, and civil judgments, including how they were disposed or described, or that did not belong on the credit reports. Bad info. Well, that's a big no-no, isn't it, Jim?
It is a big no-no, and it's a big no-no that I'm proud to report that we got them to stop doing. As part of the settlement, Equifax cannot report public record information, tax liens or judgments on credit reports any longer for at least the next 5 years. And if they ever want to go back to doing it, they have to adhere to strict guidelines and procedures and obtain court approval of that. So we're really happy about that because it was a real problem. And it caused damage to a lot of people.
Well, my special guest, ladies and gentlemen, is Jim Francis, and he is a consumer law attorney. And welcome, Jim. Class counsel, in this case, explain that your credit rating is the most important element in your financial life. If you want to buy or rent a home, lease a car, or obtain a loan or credit card, your credit rating is one of the primary factors a lender considers. That's a given right, Jim, isn't it?
That's absolutely right. Credit scores are being used more frequently and more heavily now than at any other time in our history. And some of that is just because of the digitation age and the information age that we live in. It's just very easy for lenders to make determinations based upon a 3-digit score rather than looking at a 25-page report and a lot of other information. So the credit score became basically a surrogate for assessing someone's general reputation or background. And it's used more often than ever. So it's not just in the credit card context. It's used in insurance context. It's used in leasing apartments. It's used in so many different more contexts than it used to be when it was just considered to be used for a credit card, for example. Mm-hmm. Everybody has heard the Geico ad, right? Mm-hmm. We can, qualify you for credit or for insurance in 10 minutes or less, or something along those lines. Well, the way they're able to do that without evaluating your driving history or your accident history is they just use credit scores. There's been a lot of controversy over that. People don't think that their auto insurance rates should be dictated by a credit score. It should be instead determined by their driving history and whether they have speeding violations or they cause accidents. And a lot of car insurance companies are just using credit scores. It's a really important, if not the most important component in terms of whether you can qualify for basically any part of of commerce.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it can even impact your prospects of getting a job, can't it, these days,
Yeah, and background checks are being used more frequently by employers every day. Job offers are being made upon the condition of passing a successful background check. I have many, many cases where people are losing jobs because their background check is wrong. Somebody else's criminal record is showing up on their report because the person has a similar name. It's a horrible situation that's going on today with that.
What is, Jim, what is the credit score based on, and why is it so important?
So the credit score is based upon several factors. Ultimately, these are what the credit reporting agencies call proprietary scores, and they don't really share exactly how the credit scores work. But what we've learned is they are made up really of like several components. First, your payment history. Do you pay your bills on time or not? Do you pay them 30 days late regularly, 60 days late, 90 days? The longer it takes for you to pay your bills, and the more delinquent you are on your bills, that's going to drive down your score. Another factor is your debt to credit ratio, right? Are you carrying low balances or are you maxing out your credit cards? If you carry low balances or zero balances and you have a high credit limit, that raises your score. If you are at the top of your credit limit on all of your accounts or you max them out, that's going to lower your score. The next factor is the length of your credit history. How long have you had accounts? An account that someone's had in good standing for 20 years creates a higher credit score than an account that's been in good standing for 1 year. So I always caution people who say, I'm going to close my accounts, and I say, don't do it necessarily. If you have accounts in good standing that have been in good standing for a long period of time, do not close those accounts. That will not help your credit score. If anything, it'll probably negatively impact your credit score. And then finally, the last factor is how often or frequently you apply for credit. And that's what we call inquiries. How often are you applying for credit? If you apply for credit and shop around for a car 20 times to different lenders in a month, that's going to drop your score significantly. If you apply for credit once a year, that's probably not going to impact you much at all. So those four factors really are the main drivers of the score.
Well, one big worry, this day and age, people imitating people, of course. How can inaccurate information on our credit or background check reports, it can really hurt us, right?
It definitely can hurt. Inaccurate information, in this case, whether it's a tax lien or a judgment that doesn't belong to you, or in a background check, a criminal record that doesn't belong to you, can really have serious damaging effects on your ability to get employment, get credit, get a job. So it's really important that you remain vigilant about the information being sold about you. And as I always say, we live in an age where you have to be your own best advocate, because your information is being sold all over every day without you even knowing it. And so you have to be conscientious and be your own best advocate in terms of making sure that the information is accurate.
We're speaking with Jim Francis, who's an accomplished consumer law attorney who works to protect consumers in federal and state courts, both in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Now, let's talk about this ADR program. How can my listeners find out about it? How do you qualify and so on? Can you talk about that?
Yes, sure. So as part of the settlement, we created a streamlined claim process where somebody goes on the website, they follow the instructions, and they submit a claim form electronically. They don't need a lawyer. They don't need to go to court. And they get a streamlined process by which they can get $1,500 as in the Equifax settlement. The settlement website is EquifaxPublicRecordSettlement.com. Again, EquifaxPublicRecordSettlement.com. And it outlines the type of information you need to provide. For example, if you have a denial letter from a creditor denying you credit, that's the type of information and documentation that you would submit along with your claim. Or if you know when you were denied credit, you can supply that information. If you have a copy of the court record, that is an issue. But the settlement website outlines the process, but we really work to make it a very streamlined and not very burdensome process. And you can get your $1,500. So I would encourage people to go to the website and follow the instructions and do that.
Well, it's very simple, ladies and gentlemen, www.equifax, that's EQUIFAX, Equifax, Public Record Settlement, all one word there. So EquifaxPublicRecordSettlement.com. Now, Jim, your firm, you're very busy with what you do. What is it, Francis Mailman Soumilas? Is that right, Soumilas?
Francis Mailman Soumilas.
So, okay, you focus on fair credit reporting, fair debt collection practices, and consumers' class actions. You've done some of the biggest in history. You've seen a lot of things over the years change. What do you see coming up now, what with cryptocurrency and what with all this online stuff and, artificial intelligence? What's your biggest worry for the future?
My biggest worry is that there is so much more information that is being sold about consumers than we know about. Because the only thing that we're even aware of in most cases are our credit reports, because the laws made those transparent. But there are so many other instances instances where our data is being sold and used in connection with transactions that can affect us significantly. As I said, it's not just your credit report or your credit or a credit card that can be impacted. Mortgage, it's insurance, it's a job, it's whether or not you can lease an apartment. It's their banking scores that are being sold that determine your deposit history, how often your check is coming into your bank, so that way the bank knows, and if it sees all of a sudden that check stops and you get a lower score, the bank flags that account. There are so many different versions of information being sold. I'm trying to do the best I can as a consumer advocate to chase it all. I can't even keep up with it. And it's just because we live in an age where the sale of data is such an easy, good business and such a great commodity. You basically just license a username and a password, and I just license my database to you. So the more data I have about consumers, the more I can sell. And it's a very dangerous situation because the automated process does not ensure accuracy. And so very often this information that's being sold about you is not accurate and can really hurt you. But to me, that's the biggest concern that I have as a consumer advocate right now.
And briefly, Jim, what's the best advice you could give?
Best advice I can give today is monitor and check your credit reports regularly and frequently. The law was passed in 2001 so that at least once a year you can get your credit report for free from annualcreditreport.com. It's a website that the law forced the credit reporting agencies to set up. So at least get your credit report once a year because it's free, but I would encourage you to do it more often than that. The fee is around $12.50, and because every 30 days, generally, the information at the credit reporting agencies is changed, refreshed, and updated. So because your credit report is accurate today, doesn't mean that's going to be the case in 30 days, 6 months, a year. So be vigilant and be your own best advocate in terms of monitoring the information being sold about you. That's my best advice.
Thank you so much, Jim. And I'll send you the check. Listen, Jim Francis, he is a super consumer law man. I mean, he's been recognized for his work in consumer protection litigation. And in fact, he was ranked in the top 100 super lawyers in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that was back in 2008 and gone on since then. So he does a lot of good work and great advice. Thanks, Jim. Really appreciate it. You look after yourself.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
All right. Goodbye now.